Hello and welcome to the final installment of my slash and burn breakdown of Allison P. Davis's interview with the Duchess, Don't Do Muchness, in New York Magazine's The Cut. How did it get so hard? She had tried to play royal. I was an actress, she says. My entire job was tell me where to stand, tell me what to say, tell me how to say it, tell me what to wear, and I'll do it. And I'll show up early and I'll probably bake something for the crew. Every movie about an American woman who ends up becoming a princess has a pivotal scene in which she thinks she's doing the job correctly, just by being herself, but then some older royal gives her a speech about duty and decorum. I cite specifically The Prince and Me. She hasn't seen it. Yeah, that would have been really helpful. That would have been a very key tutorial to have had in advance of all this, she says, not quite sarcastically, but the delivery is a sentence with a steel rod in it. By her own analysis, her problem stemmed from her being an American, not necessarily a Black American, she explains. Her desire to ask lots of questions and to never be involved with something she couldn't totally have her hands on seemed to violate an unspoken social norm. So what do you think? Do you think Meghan really tried? I don't think she really tried. Like she said, she's a professional actress. It shouldn't have taken her more than 40 minutes prior to any given engagement to learn how to curtsy, sit, cross her legs, when to wear her gloves, where to put her hands, with perhaps a couple hour-long lessons in table manners and dancing, respectively. She keeps acting as if learning this stuff is as difficult as passing the foreign service exams. And she keeps acting as if the royal family wanted to embarrass her, when in fact they were just hoping she wouldn't embarrass them. This has nothing to do with being American. This has to do with being a stubborn child at best and setting up a defamatory narrative about her own family at worst. The reporting of their renovations was just part of the abusive press coverage, the sorts of headlines and allegedly true news items that led to the decline in her mental health. Ha ha ha, we see what you did there, Allison P. Davis. Abusive press coverage. As if detailing somebody's expensive home renovations is abuse. The couple figured if the tabloids felt free to attack them under the guise of public interest because their lives were taxpayer funded, then they should just remove taxpayer funding from the equation, she explains. They suggested to the firm that they be allowed to work, still on behalf of the monarchy, and make their own money. Then maybe all the noise would stop, Meghan says of their reasoning. I don't believe them. I don't think this had anything to do with their media coverage. I think Sunshine Sachs sold them a bill of goods, told them they could be self-made billionaires in 18 months in a half-in, half-out scenario. That's it. I think they just thought they would be richer if they were free to pursue commercial opportunities. They also thought it best to leave the UK and the UK press to do it. They were willing to go to basically any Commonwealth, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, anywhere. Because just by existing, we were upsetting the dynamic of the hierarchy. So we go, okay, fine, let's get out of here. Happy to, she says, putting her hands up in mock defeat. Meghan asserts that what they were asking for wasn't reinventing the wheel, and lists a handful of princes and princesses and dukes who have the very arrangements they wanted. That, for whatever reason, is not something that we were allowed to do, even though several other members of the family do that exact thing. First of all, I want names. I very much wish the author had named the princes, princesses, and dukes Meghan listed. There are people like Prince Michael who have sort of half in, half out deals. On one hand, he lives in a grace and favor. On the other hand, he pays a nominal rent for it. On one hand, he is paid to do speaking engagements, particularly in the Russian community. On the other hand, on rare occasion, he is called upon to represent the Queen, and I mean truly rare occasion. He's really their last resort. But I do think there's a substantive difference between him giving speeches to Russians and his wife, the infamous Princess Michael, profiting off of her books on history, versus Harry and Meghan trying to copyright royal and sell sweatbands and socks embroidered with their arms or whatever on Instagram. Am I wrong? What do you think? Should in or out be an absolute for royal family members? Is merching more offensive than other types of commercial activity? Does degree matter in terms of both the rank of the particular royal and the amount of commercial activity? Should it be reviewed on a case-by-case basis? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious about what you think. Why do you think that is? I ask. Why do you think that is? She says right back with a side eye that suggests I should understand without having to be told. All right, Megan, I'll bite. It could be that the very reasons she was considered a breath of fresh air at first and then a supernova, biracial, divorcee, self made millionaire, clothes horse, only highlighted the ways in which the monarchy was becoming irrelevant to a younger generation, and worse, the ways that it was deeply flawed and racist. I think Megan is just in really poor form here. You don't invite an interviewer to your home and then sarcastically parrot their questions. To that, it could be just because she's black. Or perhaps it's owed to the fact that Megan, who jokes that even my blood type is A positive, wouldn't relinquish control over her own image, and that image had the potential to be too big of a brand. Oh my. Okay, back to branding. Maybe as Harry battled on her behalf with the tabloids, one stern statement after another, it was all becoming too eerily reminiscent of Princess Diana. Or maybe it's because by the time she met and married Harry, she was already a fully formed American woman. Self made, self refined. She had desires and goals and a fan base. And while she was a fine actress, the job she is best at is envisioning a life for herself and getting it. That specific type of a very American ambition just isn't really compatible with being a princess, though it is compatible with her current life, which seems to be the best of all worlds: a palace in a better climate, still culturally considered royalty while having freedom from the royal family, a level of celebrity that exceeds what she could have gotten through Suits or The Tig, a neighbor with mini pigs. Well, I can't put words in your mouth, I say instead. Again, I believe the author is trolling her here by enumerating all the rather ludicrous explanations H&M have used over the years to justify their terrible behavior. Bravo, Allison P. Davis. And then a pause as she looks down and inspects her hands. The Bachelor producer in her head deliberates how much should be said. I don't know, she says, casting a knowing gaze out into the middle distance. Again, so rude, Megan. Is this an interview or an argument? What questions did you expect the interviewer to ask? Why haven't you prepared the answers? Megan is lazy. She's ruthless, she's paranoid, she's out of touch, she's condescending, but above all, she's lazy. Though it wasn't the planned first project, Megan is happy for the podcast to be her reintroduction. It's so real, she says. I feel different. I feel clearer. It's like I'm not finding my voice. I've had my voice for a long time, but being able to use it. At its heart, archetypes, slogan, don't believe the type, is Megan's way of grappling with questions that have plagued her personally. Why certain women get saddled with labels, why they stick long after they've been proved untrue. The first episode, which debuted at #1 on Spotify, is a chat with her friend Serena Williams about ambition. They talk about Williams's recent retirement announcement and how Megan never thought being ambitious was a bad thing until she started dating Harry. It's a conversation that hovers between candid or planned it. Yeah. I have 3 videos taking down the first Archetypes episode. Check them out. The rest of the episodes, she'll dig into labels like old maid, dragon lady, bimbo crazy, angry black woman, bitch, well, B word, she clarifies, and then squeals, ooh, I don't want to say that word. It makes me so uncomfortable. And slut. Will Megan say slut? Oh my gosh, that makes me so uncomfortable. She's lined up a murderer's row of guests: Constance Wu, Issa Rae, Lisa Ling, Margaret Cho, and Ziwei. I'll let you guess who aligns with which archetype. Weird mix, we know they aren't personal friends. I'm very curious how many will catch on to Megan mid-interview and start passive-aggressively mocking her like Serena Williams during her fake fire story. In her own life, Megan's response to being typecast seems to be to lean into all the positive things her story symbolizes. She understands what her ascent meant to Black Britons, for whom she's a sign of progress, and to women for whom she's a working mom and a signal boost to the issues that affect them. Paid parental leave, equal pay. Even though she avoids reading her own press. Sure she does. Megan knows people see her this way. She recalls a moment from the 2019 London premiere of the live-action version of The Lion King. I just had Archie. It was such a cruel chapter. I was scared to go out. A cruel chapter? Has anyone ever been cruel to Megan? Do you think she even knows the definition of cruelty? A cast member from South Africa pulled her aside. He looked at me and he's just like light. He said, I just need you to know, when you married into this family, we rejoice in the streets the same we did when Mandela was freed from prison. Of course, she knows she's no Mandela, but perhaps even telling me this story is a mode of defense. Because if you are a symbol for all that is good and charitable, how can anybody find you objectionable? How can anybody hate you? The only male South African cast member of The Lion King has since been identified as John Kanai. I am very curious to see his response to this because I genuinely can't imagine any intelligent person likening Meghan's marriage to Mandela's liberation in public or private. I don't think it ever happened, and I don't think he ever said it happened. I'd be curious to look at the footage of that event and see if he pulls aside Meghan at any point. The result of trying always to do and say the right thing is the impression that she's constantly policing herself. And in a meta twist, I find myself worrying that the words I write about her will be misinterpreted and dissected. Rudely, maliciously, too. Ha 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 ha. And this is what people were talking about with malicious compliance. Allison P. Davis knows very well that she is putting out a hit piece, and she's abnegating responsibility in writing in advance. Oops, what did I say? Abnegating? Am I a racist? In October 2021, the company Bot Sentinel released a study that found not only that the press around Meghan was disproportionately negative, but that 70% of hateful posts about her came from just 83 accounts that reached up to 17 million Twitter users. I wonder if she was relieved by any of this. After being gaslit, she at last had proof that she had been harassed, but also that it was just a small group of people. It didn't really matter what she did, she would still have elicited this hatred. There has to be some freedom in that. I think Allison P. Davis knows her readers are intelligent enough to reach their own conclusions from this data. She's giving us these facts as if she's supporting Meghan's point of view that she was harassed, when in fact, all these facts illustrate to me is that Meghan and Harry may very well have been paying for a false flag social media operation to create a belief amongst the public that they were being harassed when they really weren't, to create a belief amongst the American public that the British are racists when they're really not, to create a belief amongst the world that the royal family is abusive when it's actually not. Somehow, Archie knows his mother is at the gate of his preschool before the teacher even throws it open to set him free. He's so excited to see her, repeating "Mama, Mama, Mama" in his little voice as he runs toward her that he leaves his lunchbox behind on the ground. She scoops him up in a big hug so full of genuine emotion that both close their eyes. Meghan grew up very close to her father, Thomas, a retired lighting director who gave Meghan her Hollywood bug, but she has been estranged from him basically since the wedding. He was not in attendance. And every miserable fissure in their former bond has been publicized, often by him. After the wedding, the Mail on Sunday leaked a heartfelt letter Meghan wrote to her father, begging him to stop speaking to reporters. Do you all remember that letter? Do you think it was heartfelt? Do you think she leaked that letter herself? Was that letter to her father, or was that letter to us? I feel like that letter was to the Mail on Sunday. Meghan sued for invasion of privacy and won, though the defense mounted against her painted her as calculating and manipulative. When I ask about it, Meghan doesn't stay in her sadness for long. Instead, she uses it to discuss how toxic tabloid culture has torn two families apart. Harry said to me, I lost my dad in this process. It doesn't have to be the same for them as it was for me, but that's his decision. Meghan, you made it clear to your husband that he had to choose between his past and his future, his family, and you. He made the only choice he could make. That doesn't mean it was really his decision. The car ride back to their house is very busy, dictated by the whims and conversational patterns of a toddler. Archie, munching on a quesadilla, wants to roll the window down himself, but not until we get to a specific huge head she mysteriously favors. We assess if he had a good day at school via an update letter from his teacher. He did and is ready for full days, and try to find out if he ate his sandwich at lunch. He did not. We solve the question of the mid-morning shirt change they played in the water table. Why are you afraid of heights like an airplane? Archie asks, and that leads to a conversation about the importance of being brave. Tell me, was this a setup? Was Archie rehearsed to ask about that afraid of heights thing? In the archetypes conversation with Serena, I had trouble believing a 3-year-old would come up with that out of thin air. If he forgets to say please or thank you, Megan reminds him of the manners that make the man. At a stoplight, she reaches into the trunk and produces a brand new black backpack and hands it to her security detail to give to an unhoused man on the corner. They are teaching Archie that some people live in big houses, some in small, and that some are in between homes. They made kits to pass out with water and peanut butter crackers and granola bars. I ate one, Archie contributes. Again, do you think this is a regular thing or do you think this is just for this reporter? I feel like if it were a regular thing, we would have seen or heard something on the news or in social media. Earlier in our conversation about her goals for the life she's creating here, she'd remarked upon how, if Archie were in school in the UK, she'd never be able to do school pickup and drop off without it being a royal photo call with a press pen of 40 people snapping pictures. That's not true. It's just not true. They come on the first day of school, perhaps on the last day of school, perhaps returning from winter break if it's a very slow news cycle. If you've changed schools, they'll catch you in the new school uniform. But this is a demonstrable falsehood. Sorry, I have a problem with that. That doesn't make me obsessed with privacy. That makes me a strong and good parent protecting my child, Megan says. For now, even though two Montecito moms waiting in front of the school stopped mid-chat to do a double take, Archie is just the cheerful kid who brings a week's worth of freshly picked fruit for his fellow classmates and enjoys playing a roaring game at recess. Yeah, the Montecito moms don't care. I think Megan was probably really disappointed to find that rich people in America truly don't care. We pull up to the house and Archie leaps out. Harry is ending a phone call as Archie throws himself around his legs. Lilibet, unsmiling with watchful bright blue eyes, is brought out by her nanny. She is small and also ginger, and when there is a small person in the room not smiling, it's a reflex to do anything to entertain them. Harry starts dancing to his own beatboxing, and Megan bends down and joins in. And then I find myself doing it too, until she gives a lopsided smile and we all realize it's a bit strange to be bonding in this way. What? Okay, this is where I'm starting to question the interviewer. I would absolutely not dance like a monkey for some interviewee's child. How absurd. We ended the visit in her sitting room where there's a massive grand piano Tyler Perry gifted her as a housewarming present. Write the soundtrack for your life, he told them. Ah, Tyler Perry. I can't fault the man. His social climbing is aggressive, it's immaculate. Do your thing, Tyler Perry. It's interesting. I've never had to sign anything that restricts me from talking, she reveals, as she ushers me toward the door. I can talk about my whole experience and make a choice not to. Why doesn't she talk? Still healing, she responds. I find it interesting that Meghan issues this threat to the royal family at the very end of the interview so as not to be further questioned in any way. Is she seriously claiming that because the royal family did not force her, their relative, to sign a non-disclosure agreement, she's fully within her rights to say whatever nasty things she can imagine? She really has no sense of moral obligation, does she? No sense of filial piety. She doesn't even have the good manners to relay this threat personally. She's doing it through the press. I've never once felt badly for the royals, but I genuinely don't think they could have found someone worse to marry into the family if they tried. I also don't believe Meghan is healing from any abuse. I don't believe there was any abuse there. I think perhaps she's healing from a narcissistic wound, but we all know that narcissistic wounds never really heal, do they? The narcissist's favorite hobby is dragging up old resentments and punishing everyone around them for them over and over again until the end of time. I wonder if, given all she's put behind her now, she thinks there's room for forgiveness between her and her royal in-laws and her own family. I think forgiveness is really important. It takes a lot more energy to not forgive, she says wisely, but it takes a lot of effort to forgive. I've really made an active effort, especially knowing that I can say anything, she says, her voice full of meaning. So she reiterates her threat. She's honestly expecting what? The Queen and Prince Charles to kowtow in front of her on Skype, begging her not to badmouth them further? Did she lose her mind at some point, or has she always been like this? And then she is silent. She breathes in and smiles, and breathes out and says, I have a lot to say until I don't. Do you like that? Sometimes, as they say, the silent part is still part of the song. Oh my gosh. Meghan, you are not a poet. You are not a lyricist. Please stop. She did the same thing at the end of her podcast, this weird thing about Serena, my Serena, and sort of waxed on, revealing to us that she actually doesn't know what a siren is in the Greek sense. It's the same thing here. Does Meghan actually plan the end of every interview to be some weird transition to outro music? And how odd to ask the reporter if she likes a statement. I wonder what her tone was here. Did she mean it literally? Do you like that? As in, do I sound smart? Will you write that down? Did she mean that in a sort of how you like them apples way? Threatening the reporter as well? Like, this interview is over, get out of my house, or what? What was even happening at this point? And then, quickly and decisively, as if it were my idea, the conversation ends. So Meghan has covered all her talking points. She's done. She reveals to us in this moment that this was not about answering a reporter's questions, just about putting forward her point of view yet again. Meghan sets a harvest basket in my arms, a cornucopia of fruit and vegetables from their garden, and a jar of jam from the Lily Bunny Garden and Larder. She had the labels made on Etsy. She smiles and waves as I make my way out the door, wondering if somehow I'd missed everything she was trying to say. Oh my gosh, there are inception levels of projection going on in this final sentence. Well, Allison P. Davis, I don't think you missed Meghan's point at all. I don't think you bathed her in a glowy golden Instagram filter. I think you showed us every wrinkle and freckle the harsh midday California sunshine could reveal. I don't think you're a sycophant. I think this was very funny, and I thank you for your service. I'd also like to mention that at the bottom of this article, there's a huge paragraph of links to buy everything Meghan wore, which is all quite expensive. I wonder if Merchy Megsy negotiated some sort of deal where she gets a percent of the affiliate commissions. I suppose we'll never know. I'll see you tomorrow. Do you like that?